All right, let's kick off another deep dive. And today we're going all in on a real New York landmark,
A classic.
Katz's Delicatessen.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of articles, even a YouTube video straight from Katz's themselves, and it looks like we are in for, well, a real treat.
It does. It does. I feel like everyone knows Katz's for their pastrami, but
Yeah.
there's really so much more to kind of discover about this place.
Mm.
Over a century of history, a real family legacy,
Wow.
and some kind of surprising twists and turns along the way. So, well, we'll unpack all of that today.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig in. And speaking of digging in, I was checking out that Katz's video, and they start off with a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
It turns out their most popular sandwich, it's not actually the pastrami,
Is that right?
it's the corned beef.
The corned beef.
Oh, I know, right?
Okay.
But then when you see how they make it, you kind of start to understand why, they're using these ancient techniques, they say, curing the beef for at least 3 weeks.
Wow.
And get this, they even hand carve each slice.
Oh, wow. So they're not messing around.
No, it's not just like some, quick deli counter situation. They're taking their time.
Yeah, it seems like a real window into their whole philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Like Katz's is all about those traditional methods, taking that time to really let those flavors develop, the textures.
Mm.
And that dedication to quality, I think it probably has a lot to do with why they've been successful for 133 years.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if that slow curing process, does that impact the taste in a way that a faster, more modern method, wouldn't?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think we can kind of explore a little bit further when we get into the pastrami,
Okay.
because that's really where things get interesting.
All right, so we know corned beef, surprise bestseller, but you can't talk Katz's without talking pastrami.
Oh, absolutely not. I
Right.
mean, it's what they're known for.
Right.
And while both corned beef and pastrami are cured, the pastrami, that goes through an even more, I guess, extensive, lengthy process.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking up to 30 days of curing.
30 days.
30 days. Then it's smoked for another 2 to 3 days.
Wow, that is quite a journey for a piece of meat.
It is.
What's the reasoning behind that extra long curing and smoking?
Well, I mean, think about it this way. The longer something cures, right, the more those flavors really have a chance to kind of deepen and meld.
Right.
And you create this complexity that you just don't get with those quicker methods.
And I would imagine it also helps them avoid the need for shortcuts, like adding chemicals or things like that to speed up the process, right?
Got it. Katz's pastrami.
Yeah.
It's all about letting time do its thing, and that's what results in that melt in your mouth texture that they're so well known for.
Yeah, and then there's that spice rub. They kind of mention it in the video, but
Yeah.
they stay pretty tight-lipped about what exactly goes in it. Do our other sources shed any light on that mystery?
Well, a few articles speculate about some of the likely ingredients, things like black pepper, coriander, garlic, maybe even some paprika.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that exact recipe, that's a closely guarded secret,
Yeah.
passed down through generations.
It's like their own culinary version of the Coca-Cola formula or something.
It really is.
But knowing Katz's, though, I bet each spice is carefully chosen to, play a specific role in building that unique pastrami flavor.
Yeah, I agree. A good spice rub, it's not just about adding heat, right? It's about balancing those flavors, enhancing the natural taste of the meat.
Right.
And in the case of pastrami, contributing to that delicious, crusty exterior.
Okay, so we've got these time-honored methods for the corned beef, the pastrami, but then things take, I don't know, I found this pretty surprising, a little bit of a modern turn.
Oh, are you talking about the pastroghi and the vegan pastrami?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like they're taking these classic delish flavors and kind of shaking things up a bit.
Hmm.
It's not what I would have expected from a place so steeped in tradition.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to stay relevant, though, right? And
Yeah.
appeal to a wider audience. And I think the fact that they're doing these limited time offerings, that creates this sense of excitement, this exclusivity.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to be there, you got to try it now or never.
Let's talk about the pastroghi first.
I'm
I
good.
mean, what a concept, right? It's like the ultimate New York food mashup.
It is. So they partnered with Veselka,
Oh, wow.
another iconic New York eatery,
Uh-huh.
famous for their Ukrainian cuisine.
Right.
And they basically combined Katz's signature pastrami with Veselka's pierogi.
Oh my gosh, those pillowy pierogi filled with savory pastrami. It's just like
Yeah.
that perfect blend of Eastern European and New York deli flavors
Yeah.
all in one bite.
It was a genius move, especially
Yep.
considering the history of both Katz's and the Lower East Side
Right.
as this melting pot of immigrant cultures.
Hmm.
It's like a culinary tribute to the neighborhood's heritage.
I think it's a shame it was only a limited time offer, though. Makes me wonder if they have any plans to bring it back.
It's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
All right.
But speaking of those limited time offerings, let's move on to the one that really got people talking, the vegan pastrami.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first heard about this, I was like, vegan sandwich at Katz's? Seriously?
Right.
It just seems so counterintuitive.
Right. You would think that a place known for its meat would kind of shy away from those plant-based options, but
Yeah.
Katz's, they teamed up with Chef Dan Barber, who's known for his innovative, sustainable approach to cooking.
And he actually managed to create, like, a convincing vegan pastrami. What's the secret?
Beets.
Beets.
Beets, specifically Badger flame beets, which have this beautiful color and a slightly sweet kind of earthy flavor
Okay.
that really lends itself well to that
Mhm.
to that pastrami profile.
So did he just, like, throw some beets on bread and call it a day? Because that doesn't sound very Katz's-like.
No. This is where it gets really interesting. So Chef Barber, he applied all of those classic Katz's techniques to the beets.
Okay.
Brining, seasoning, smoking,
What?
even steaming.
They're treating the beets the same way they would treat the meat.
Exactly.
That's a pretty serious commitment to the craft, even for a plant-based option.
It is. And it shows that they're not just, jumping on the vegan bandwagon.
Right.
They're putting in that effort to create something truly special.
Wow.
And just like the pastrogi, the vegan pastrami,
Uh-huh.
only available for a very limited time.
It's like they're creating these culinary events that everyone wants to be a part of. Makes
Yeah.
you wonder what they'll come up with next.
It does.
Yeah.
But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's maybe step back in time a little bit
All right.
and delve into Katz's history.
Okay.
Because they've been around for well over a century, right?
Yeah. 1888, I think.
That's right. That's even older than I thought.
And get this. It wasn't even called Katz's back then. Originally, it was known as Iceland Brothers.
You're on top of it. The founders were Morris and Hyman Iceland, and they started out on Ludlow Street.
Huh.
It wasn't until 1903 that a certain Willie Katz kind of entered the picture.
And I'm guessing that's when the name changed to Iceland and Katz.
Exactly. But the story doesn't end there. We'll have to wait till part 2 to unravel how Iceland and Katz eventually became the Katz's Delicatessen we know and love today.
Oh, man. All right. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back. Last we left off, we were just about to uncover how Iceland and Katz transformed into the Katz's Delicatessen that's graced the corner of Houston and Ludlow for almost a century.
Right. Yeah. So Willie Katz joined the business in 1903.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next? How did the Iceland Brothers get phased out of the name?
Well, in 1910, Willie's cousin Benny Katz joined the business.
Okay.
And he must have seen some serious potential because he actually bought out the Iceland Brothers shares.
Wow.
And just like that, Katz's Delicatessen was born.
It's amazing to think that like one decision like that can really shape a business's legacy for over 100 years.
It really is. It really is.
And speaking of legacy, I mean, they've been at their current location for a long time, right? Did they always call Houston Street home?
Actually, no. They were originally on Ludlow Street,
Oh.
just a block away. But in the 1930s, during the construction of the New York City subway, they had to relocate.
Oh, wow. So Katz's was literally shaped by the city's, like, growth and development.
Exactly. It's like they're woven into the fabric of New York.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but even their current location has some hidden history. So the storefront we see today with that iconic neon sign,
Mhm.
that wasn't actually added until the late 1940s.
Wait, seriously, I always just assumed that storefront was, like, original to the building?
Yep. Before they added the storefront, it was just a vacant lot that they used for storing meat and pickles.
Can you imagine?
It's crazy.
It's like a completely different image of Katz's.
It is.
It just goes to show how much they've evolved over the years, even while holding on to those core traditions.
Right. And speaking of traditions, let's maybe circle back to their food for a second.
Okay.
We talked about that extensive curing process for both the corned beef and the pastrami.
Right.
But there's one element that I don't think we've fully explored yet. The smoking process.
Oh, yeah, they mentioned smoking the pastrami for a few days, which I I don't know that I've ever heard of other delis doing that.
That's true. That's what makes Katz's pastrami so unique.
Okay.
Most delis, they just steam their pastrami.
Uh,
But Katz's, they take it a step further with that traditional smoking method.
I'm guessing that's where that intense smoky flavor comes from.
Yeah.
It's almost like barbecue, but in a pastrami kind of way.
Exactly. And remember we talked about that secret spice rub and that delicious black crust?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the smoking process, that actually plays a key role in creating that crust.
Okay, how so? Does the smoke like somehow react with the spices?
It's all about the Maillard reaction. So when you apply heat, in this case smoke, to the meat and those spices, this complex chemical reaction occurs.
Hold on, remind me what the Maillard reaction is again.
Oh, sure.
I vaguely remember it from chemistry class, but
Yeah, it's basically what gives food that browned, crusty exterior and creates those deep, savory flavors. It's why a steak tastes better grilled than boiled.
right.
And it's what gives Katz's pastrami that signature crust and those irresistible smoky notes.
So it's not just about like adding smoke flavor, it's about transforming the meat and the spices on like a molecular level.
Exactly. It's science meeting culinary tradition. And remember, they're smoking this pastrami for 2 to 3 days.
Right.
So those flavors, they have plenty of time to develop and
I
deepen.
feel like they've turned pastrami making into an art form.
It really is.
Yeah. No wonder people are lining up down the block for a taste. But I have to ask, I mean, is there anything else that makes Katz's pastrami stand out besides like the curing and the smoking and the mysterious spice rub?
Well, they're also very particular about the cut of meat they use.
Okay.
It's not just any old beef that goes into their pastrami. They specifically use the navel cut.
Why the navel cut? Is there something special about that?
So the navel is a specific part of the brisket, and it's considered like the best cut for pastrami for a couple reasons. First of all, it has a higher fat content than other parts of the brisket.
And I'm guessing that fat helps to keep the meat moist and flavorful during that long curing and smoking process.
You got it. It's all about maximizing flavor and tenderness.
Okay.
The navel also has a nice balance of lean and fatty tissue, which gives the pastrami that perfect marbling and texture.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to understand why Katz's pastrami is in a league of its own. But I'm still curious about that spice rub. I mean, we know they use black pepper and coriander, but like what else might be lurking in that secret blend?
Well, based on the flavor profile and some of the research we've done, it likely includes ingredients like garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, mustard seeds, maybe even a touch of brown sugar for sweetness and caramelization during smoking.
It's like a culinary puzzle trying to decipher all those flavors, but I guess that's part of the fun, right?
It is. It keeps you coming back for more,
Yeah.
trying to unlock the secret.
But let's maybe shift gears for a moment and revisit those modern twists we touched on earlier, starting with the pastroghi collaboration.
Oh, yeah. The epic mashup of Katz's pastrami
Yeah.
and Veselka's pierogi.
I'm still bummed I missed out on trying that one. Do we know anything about how they came up with that idea?
It was actually part of a larger food festival that was celebrating the Lower East Side's culinary heritage. And both Katz's and Veselka are institutions in the neighborhood. So it was a natural fit.
It's like the perfect marriage of two culinary worlds, the classic Jewish deli and the traditional Ukrainian eatery.
And they didn't just throw any old pierogi in the mix. They chose potato and cheese pierogi, which perfectly complemented the savory, smoky pastrami.
Yeah, it sounds like they put a lot of thought into creating like a harmonious balance of flavors and textures, and it speaks to their willingness to experiment, to push boundaries, while still staying true to their roots.
Absolutely. And speaking of pushing boundaries, let's talk about the other culinary experiment that made headlines, the vegan pastrami.
Okay, so we know Chef Dan Barber was the mastermind behind this one, and we know he used beets.
Yes.
But I'm still curious about the process. Like, how do you transform a beet into something that resembles pastrami?
Well, Chef Barber, he's known for his innovative approach to plant-based cooking. And for the vegan pastrami, he applied the same techniques that Katz uses for their traditional pastrami.
So they brine the beets, they season them, they smoke them.
You got it. They went through the whole 9 yards, even steaming the beets to achieve that tender melt-in-your-mouth texture.
That's incredible. It shows a real dedication to the craft, even when working with, unconventional ingredients. It makes you wonder if they'll explore other plant-based options in the future.
It's definitely possible. I mean, the positive response to the vegan pastrami, I think, suggests that there's a growing demand for creative, delicious, plant-based deli options.
Yeah, it's like they're redefining what deli food can be.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it while honoring the traditions that made them famous in the first place.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance,
Yeah.
but Katz seems to have found that sweet spot.
But as we've seen with both the pastroghi and the vegan pastrami, I mean, these unique creations are often fleeting, limited time offerings, gone in a flash.
Yeah, it's true.
It's almost like they're creating like a sense of culinary FOMO.
You're right. It's like they're saying, get it while it lasts, because you might never see it again. And that just adds to the allure,
Right.
the sense that you're experiencing something truly special.
It's a brilliant strategy, really. It keeps people talking,
Mm-hmm.
keeps them coming back for more, keeps them wondering what Katz's will come up with next.
Exactly. They've managed to create this buzz, this excitement around their food that goes beyond, just a delicious sandwich.
Right.
It's an experience. It's a cultural phenomenon.
You know, it's funny. We started out talking about Katz's food, but we've really uncovered so much more than that.
Yeah.
We've delved into their history,
Yeah.
their connection to the city,
Right.
their willingness to evolve while staying true to their roots.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we've taken a bite out of New York itself.
I agree.
Okay.
And there's still so much more to explore. We haven't even touched upon Katz's cultural impact, their appearances in pop culture, their role as this New York institution.
Well, we can't leave our listener hanging.
We can't.
Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into the cultural significance of Katz's and what makes it such an enduring symbol of New York City.
All right, we're back, and we've covered a lot of ground with Katz's.
Yeah.
Their history, their famous, meats, those innovative twists, and even the science behind that perfect pastrami crust.
It's a Maillard reaction.
But you mentioned there's one more layer to this whole deli, this whole Katz's thing. Katz's as like a cultural icon.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's more than just a place to get a sandwich, right? It's really woven into the fabric of New York City's its history and culture. It's a place where memories are made, traditions are upheld, and stories are told.
And those stories go way back.
They do. Remember how we talked about Katz's being a popular spot for Yiddish theater performers in the early 20th century?
Oh, absolutely. Back then, the Lower East Side was a real hub for Yiddish theater.
Right.
And after a performance, I mean, what better place to gather than a deli like Katz?
Imagine those legendary performers, enjoying a late night pastrami on rye,
Oh, yeah.
sharing stories, celebrating their craft.
It was quite a scene. And that connection to the arts, to the community, it's something that continues to this day.
Yeah.
Katz's has been featured in countless films, TV shows, books over the years.
Okay, I have to ask. When you say films, the first thing that pops into my head is that scene in When Harry Met Sally?
Of course.
You know the one.
That scene alone cemented Katz's place in pop culture history. Absolutely.
It's become like a must-visit destination for movie buffs and tourists from all over the world.
It is.
It's like a pilgrimage for anyone who wants to experience a taste of classic New York. But Katz's also seems to hold like a special place in the hearts of New Yorkers themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not just a tourist trap.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
For generations, Katz's has been a gathering place for families and friends.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you go to celebrate a birthday, a graduation, or just a casual Sunday brunch. It's a place where you can feel a sense of community, a connection to the city's past.
They've witnessed so much history over the years.
They have.
Wars, economic booms and busts, cultural shifts.
And through it all, they've remained a constant, a symbol of resilience and tradition in a city that never sleeps.
And that's the beauty of Katz's, right?
It is.
They've managed to adapt and evolve while staying true to those core values.
Yeah.
Quality, tradition, community.
That's the secret recipe for success, both in the culinary world and in life itself.
Yeah, I think that's what makes Katz's so inspiring. They remind us that some things are worth preserving. That tradition and innovation can coexist,
Yeah.
and that a good pastrami sandwich really can bring people together.
Well said.
So what does this all mean for our listener? Why should they care about Katz's even if they're not planning a trip to New York anytime soon?
I think Katz offers a valuable lesson for us all.
Okay.
That quality and tradition matter,
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes the simplest things, like a perfectly crafted sandwich,
Right.
can have the power to connect us, create memories, and remind us of what truly matters.
It's a reminder to slow down, savor the moment, and appreciate the stories behind the food we eat.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe our deep dive has inspired our listener to create their own culinary masterpiece,
Yeah.
even if it's just a humble grilled cheese.
I hope so. And speaking of culinary creativity, I have one final thought for our listener to chew on. If you could create a limited time fusion dish at Katz's, what would it be? What classic deli flavors would you combine with something totally unexpected? Let your imagination run wild.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into the world of Katz's with you and our listener.
Likewise.
Until next time, happy eating.